Sega Genesis Mini 2 Review. About 5 years ago, miniature versions of classic consoles became incredibly popular souvenirs. Going all the way back to the Nintendo NES Classic, these tiny systems connect to suddenly, they vanished. The mini consoles are now extinct, and this can be attributed to streaming games, subscription services, or the Nintendo Switch's Retro Switch online game libraries. Granted, these boxes were only novelty items but adored all of them. Now it's harder to find good retro gaming gifts. Sega fanatics, it is like obtaining a precious collectible filled with B-side games that are frequently hard to come by anywhere else. Similar to the first Genesis Mini from 2019, this improved version is even tinier. It's based on the later model Genesis, not the original one. Like all other miniature consoles, it has a generic micro USB constructed charging brick and cable for power. The HDMI port comes with an HDMI cable and one Genesis 6-button controller that includes a USB connection. The Mini contains 2 USB ports for controllers, but you have to buy a second one if you want to play 2-player games. There are also Sega Genesis Classics, with more than 40 Sega manufactured games available to purchase. These Genesis games have been ported suitably and represent a good selection of classics. That being said, it isn't the only way to play Sega Genesis games. The initial Sega Genesis Mini included a library of exemplary classic games. The Mini 2's haphazard selection consists of a wealth of Sega CD titles, which elicited my nostalgia due to being the owner of both the Sega CD and 32X Genesis extensions. Unfortunately, Sega CD's matches weren't great. Though one of the best Sonic games ever made, Sonic CD is still featured on this console. Also on it are both Echo the Dolphin and its hard-to-obtain sequel, Echo, The Tides of Time. As an oddity, Night Trap and Sewer Shark, both interactive video-based games that use extremely low-resolution video, are present too. Despite not being great, they function as captivating cultural artifacts. Within the compilation, there are hidden gems like Earthworm Jim 2, which was a favorite of mine as a child, and Herzog Savai, a well-known B-side strategy game found on the Genesis. For those seeking arcade game adaptations, the Genesis features titles like Afterburner 2, Outrun, and Virtua Racing. However, the console's porting capabilities were not very effective and the games don't play well today. Thus, it would be best to try out Sega Age's arcade versions of Outrun and Virtua Racing. Even Space Harrier 2 is available as an updated version that has improved smoother sprite scaling for more arcade-like gameplay. Deb P resembles some kind of 2-player Pong but comes with Japanese menus. There's also a Genesis version for the pastel-colored shooter Fantasy Zone that can already be accessed on other assortments. On this compilation, you'll find quite a few uncanny yet enjoyable 80s Sega arcade titles such as Spatter. Compare and contrast the different collections of games available. Made a chart below to compare the video games across Nintendo's Switch Online service, Sega Genesis Classics, Genesis Mini, and Genesis Mini 2. Keep in mind that none of these compilations feature an entire collection. Similar to other retro consoles, you can save your progress at any point in the game using 4 save slots per game. This is really helpful when you want to switch between games and still keep your progress. The Mini 2 is nothing special, many of the Genesis games are available elsewhere. That being said, if you know someone who is a fan of Sega and wants